An interesting criticism was leveled at me after yesterday's vlog, in the sense that it would appear that I might be prone to a bit of self-sabotage. For instance, not preparing for this Sunday's marathon properly, or not preparing for the mountain bike race I did at the end of July, and so on and so forth. That's a valid observation, I'd have to say. But I think that requires two comments from me as a bit of an explanation for why these things occur. First, I'm not just prone to self-sabotage in these particular instances. I self-sabotage all the time and have a history of it in all sorts of different arenas in my life. In other words, it's nothing new. It's something I've been working on most of my life, and I have varying degrees of success when trying to deal with it. Second, and maybe more importantly, is the idea that I am not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. If I've given the impression so far with these videos that I am perfect or that I don't make mistakes, please let me disabuse you of that notion right now. Nothing could be further from the truth. I am far from perfect. I make mistakes all the time. And self-sabotaging myself when it comes to things like sporting events is, well, depending on your outlook on things like that, one of those many mistakes that I make. I suppose it depends on whether you want to categorize that as just a mistake or a mental health issue. Personally, I'm inclined to believe it's the latter. And I'm inclined to believe that because I actually believe that the self-sabotaging is tied to my fear of success. Now, I am not going to get into my fear of success again. I've already done a video on that, and you can watch that one if you'd like to see an explanation for it. And in that video, I even talked about what I felt was the root of my fear of success. So maybe check that one out to get a better sense of what I'm talking about here. But I do think that a fear of success can be a driver for a lot of self-sabotaging behaviors, at least in my case. Because people who self-sabotage, it can be driven by a lot of different reasons. There's at least a half a dozen good psychologically cataloged reasons for why people self-sabotage. It can take many forms. Mine just happens to show up when I'm in competitions, which makes sense because, like I said, it's tied to my fear of success. The last thing I want to be is a winner. So keep that in mind when I'm sharing these stories with you. Self-sabotaging myself is practically a hobby with me at this point. And more importantly, I am not perfect. But somewhere between self-sabotaging and imperfection, I'm going to run a marathon this Sunday. And when I run it, I'm going to run it to the best of my ability. And that counts for something.